Hello and welcome to Black Friday Inspiration Week. We plan to be here uploading every day this week to share with you some fantastic inspiration of how you can put your crafty bargains to good use. Today we are going to be upcycling this piece of cardboard and turning it into a work of art. So why not grab your crafty stash and we can all get crafting together. So as mentioned in the intro, this is Black Friday Inspiration Week. So this particular bundle will be a really special price on Black Friday. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, that will be in the description box below. If you're not interested, then don't worry about it. Just skip ahead to when we start crafting. I'll not take long, I promise. So there's going to be two stamps, Lady B. I love Lady B, which is why we're starting this event with this video, because she is where the JMC story started. So we have Lady B and Honey Tot. There will also be two stencils in the bundle. Yours will be nice and clean. Mine are well loved. We have Beehive, which we're going to be using today in our project. We have Honey Dot. So we've got the hexagons, but they just have that little dotted element. And to match that, we have the delightfully dotty paper pad, because that's sort of, they were all designed at the same time. And if you want to add a mixed media element, we also have this little honey pot, which looks absolutely gorgeous with these images. Anyway, we're just going to pull out those stamps and stencils and start crafting. So I have definitely had this cardboard squirreled away ready for this mixed media project. It has been in my head for a while, so I'm so excited I get to do it today. So this cardboard I saved because it's got a gorgeous honeycomb texture in between. I still have a couple more pieces left, so you may see this sort of idea again on my channel. So I'm just exposing that gorgeous texture, and I also didn't want it to look like a square block. I wanted it to look more like an organic piece of honeycomb. So I've taken away some of the edges. And then the first thing I am going to do is to get this covered with white gesso. So I'm using the Pretty Gets Gritty gesso and just sort of brushing the main part. And then once I have done that, I am just going to grab all the sides as well and get them sort of blocked out, ready for the stage where we start to get some colour onto this project. Okay, so I am struggling to get the gesso inside here, and although I was trying to dab the paintbrush down, I'm just going to end up damaging my paintbrushes, and also I'm not going to get a really good effect. So I am going to resort to this spray gesso. It's an awesome product, I love it, but it is like highly toxic. Not toxic, that's the word, but you know, you're meant to use it outside, and it does have quite a stench to it. Thankfully, it's kind of damp but not wet outside, so we'll try and give that a spray, and then we'll let it dry, ready for the next stage. So I'm just spraying this. You can see the wind sort of catching it there. I've managed to get it all over the wall and the pavements. I did give it a bit of a clean after, but it's great because it really does get into all the nooks and crannies. I left that overnight to dry, and again, because I'm aware it's going to be difficult to get colour down into the kind of honeycomb element as well, I am using some sprays. So I have a combination of the Dina Wakley sprays, and I used some oxides as well. They're not particularly designed to go together, but I wanted that sort of overall yellow look. I am now going to use my stencil to create a 3D element on the project. So I want to create a 3D beehive. So I'm just literally sketching in all the elements or layers of the beehive, and then we are going to cut those out and build it up. So cardboard is great for giving texture. MDF pieces can be quite expensive to buy, depending on where you're buying them from. And also once you've used them, that's it. Whereas this technique of using a stencil and some cardboard, you can make this as many times as you want. In fact, this is a technique I have used with this stencil a few times. I absolutely loved it. And now that we're down to the last handful of these stencils, I wanted to make sure that I was able to have another play before they go completely. So I've cut them all down, but I still want the texture that was in the door. So in the stencil of the door, we've kind of got the wood grain almost, and I still wanted that on the finished project. So I have taken some texture paste, and with the door bit of cardboard, I am just going to get that texture paste down, and again it's going to add that extra little detail to our beehive when the whole project comes together. So once I've lifted the stencil, I then sort of neaten the edges with a palette knife, just running it around the edge of the cardboard there so it's nice and tidy. I have got out some Dilutions paint. Now normally if I was using paint on a project, I would use white gesso first because it helps for the paint to go further and also you get a brighter result. But because we have the other layers of cardboard going on top of this, you're going to see very little of it. So I just wanted to put a bit of yellow down for continuity's sake, but I wasn't worried about getting the best paint job in the world done. So I've literally just popped that on both the main frame and the door as well. To give there an element of shade and tone, I have pulled out my Marmalade Distress ink and I'm just popping around that edge. That strange reflection that you can see there is my Scentsy. I'll have to be aware of that in future videos. It's a new addition to my craft room, so it smells lovely and I really enjoy working in that environment, but I hadn't realised it reflected on my blending marks. So I'll have to remember that for future reference. So the other bits of cardboard that we took, I am sticking these onto the paper pad, which we get in this particular bundle, and it's nice and bright. So I sort of roughly checked the placement before I flipped the paper over, and I'm doing it this way so it's easier to see what I am doing. Once I have kind of generally cut that out, we will go a little bit neater to the cardboard to make it all nice and neat and finished off beautifully. And once I have cut all of the elements out, these cardboard bits will to get a little bit of Distress ink around the edges just to help again with that shadowing, and adding different tones into your project really does help to add depth. I think it's when you start doing that it stops looking like random bits of pieces of cardboard, which essentially it is, that you have stuck together, and starts to look like a feature embellishment of a project, which is why I like to kind of add that detail of the shading with the Distress inks. I also decided just to use a bit of gold paint just to emphasise the door, and then once I'd done that I was like, oh actually that would look quite nice on the whole beehive as well. So it had a little bit of dry brushing, and then we just put a touch of pink in there for the door handle, stuck that down and put it aside. So I saved the paper that we used earlier to build the beehive, and it had these fabulous flowers on it which will look great on the overall project, so I have just fussy cut that out. I highly recommend that when you look at your papers, look at elements that you can fussy cut out. Yes, I've kind of designed them to be used as a whole, but what I really want for anybody is to be able to add your own touch, your own creativity to make it your own. And I think looking into a paper and finding elements you can fussy cut out is a really good way of doing it, because you get to rearrange it to your heart's desire, put it in a way that you want, but it also will overall match the tone of the paper, because the beehive has been taken from the same papers, so it's going to match absolutely beautifully. Now, because we want all of this to last, it is going to be a little piece of decor in my craft room. I'm sure you'll see it in future videos on my funky shelves behind me. We are sticking it down with gel medium. And at this point I am just auditioning up all the different bits and pieces that we have got out. So we've got the little bumblebees that will be the main element, and then I'm just sort of putting these florals down. I did have these stamped flowers and I did sort of try and put them in, but I just felt that overall it looked a little bit cluttered, so in the end I take them away and sort of stick with the flowers that came in the paper pack and some of the little bumblebees. So it really does look like that's their home and they're all busy making honey. So to kind of finish off that idea of it being honeycomb, I have taken some of my souffle. It looks a bit strange right now because it looks pink, but having checked it in my book and how it dries, it is going to dry a beautiful golden colour. So I'm kind of pushing that into the honeycomb elements. I've not kind of picked every single honeycomb bit, but sort of popped it in a few across the project. And again, I just thought once it would dry, it would look like gorgeous, luscious honeycomb. And I've just kind of added a little bit to the edge of the beehive as well, just for an extra touch of sparkle. So the final thing that I am going to do is just to add the sentiment. So this one is believe the impossible, which for me is what bumblebees represent. They should not be able to fly, their bodies are too fat and their wings are too small. So for me it really does represent believing in the impossible, believing that you can fly and you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. So that's a perfect sentiment for my craft room, and so I have put it on the finished project. Please do stay tuned, there's going to be lots more Black Friday inspiration coming, and if you enjoy mixed media videos you might want to check out this playlist right here.